For years, Samsung has been trying to make the perfect two-in-one. It seems to have given up on the Windows-based Galaxy Book tablet line to focus on the Galaxy Tab. That probably has something to do with Android's far larger app library. But Google's OS is notoriously inferior at multitasking and doesn't exactly shine on a bigger screen. This has led Samsung to come up with its own workarounds like multi-window support and Dex Mode. I've spent the last few days using the Tab S7 Plus as my main machine, and this is the closest a Galaxy Tab has ever come to being good enough to be a daily driver. But there are a few limitations that keep the Tab S7 Plus from being a true laptop replacement. We've seen so many Galaxy tablets in the past few months that there's not much left to say about the hardware. Samsung has nailed the Tab series' design over the years, and the Tab S7 and S7 Plus are both beautiful, luxurious slabs of glass and metal. They sport 11-inch and 12.4-inch screens respectively, with pleasantly thin bezels all around. You can attach the S Pen magnetically to their backs and slap on the company's cover to keep it in place more securely. Just be aware that the case adds a bit of bulk, which isn't great considering the Tab S7 Plus is already pretty heavy at 1.26 pounds. But the iPad Pro 12.9-inch weighs a little more at 1.4 pounds, while the Surface Pro 7 comes in at 1.7 pounds. With the Tab S7s, Samsung moved the 8-megapixel front camera, so it sits on the top of the screen in the long wide bezel when held horizontally. This new position is far better, not just for video calls, but it also makes face unlock a little easier. The Tab S7 typically unlocked as soon as I looked at it, but it thinks I'm a different person with makeup on and won't recognize me. Thankfully, you can always use the in-display Fingerprint Scanner instead, which sits near the bottom of the screen when in portrait mode. As I expected, the Tab S7 Plus's 12.4-inch AMOLED is a beautiful, vibrant canvas, and I thoroughly enjoyed the way colorful sets from Blackpink's How You Like That music video popped. What surprised me though was how similar the same video looked on the Tab S7's 11-inch LCD screen. Save for the size, I almost couldn't tell them apart. They're both about equally bright and offer speedy 120Hz refresh rates for smooth scrolling and animations where supported. The only difference I noticed was that when I pulled up a white image, the S7's screen looked slightly yellowish compared to the S7 Plus. Both tablets also offered similarly loud and clear audio with minimal distortion, although I would like a little more bass. That is a problem that's shared by most devices, including laptops and smartphones, so this isn't a huge surprise. The bigger difference between the two tabs is their keyboard cases. Because the 12.4-inch is larger, it has a roomier cover that allows for a better layout. Samsung's keyboard cases for the Tab S7s cost an extra $200 or $230, but you'll need one, or a third-party option, to use the tabs as full laptops, since they also come with a kickstand to prop the tablet up. The keyboard's buttons have been upgraded over the last iteration and offer a satisfying amount of depth and responsiveness. I like it as much as the Surface Pro's type cover, although I wish Samsung made the spacebar a bit wider and got rid of the unnecessary button for language changing on the right. The trackpad is also slightly wider than before, which gives you extra space for gestures like pinch to zoom or 3-finger swipe to switch apps. The touchpad felt slightly sluggish though, and I often just ended up connecting a Bluetooth mouse. The Surface Pro's trackpad is more responsive, while the iPad's Smart Keyboard Folio doesn't have one. Apple's new Magic Keyboard does have a trackpad that works well though. Now the smaller Tab S7 also has its own keyboard cover, although obviously it's more cramped. Keys are smaller and they feel a bit clickier than the S7 Plus. It's also missing that larger keyboard's row of function keys, but you can still access shortcuts like Dex and screenshotting by using the FN button near the bottom left. The keyboards are decent, but don't work exactly as they would on a PC. Although shortcuts like Alt-Tab, Control-Z, and Control-Backspace do work, some aren't supported, like Control-Delete or Control++ or minus to zoom. Samsung did a lot of things to mimic a desktop experience, but there are a few ways the Tab S7 and S7 Plus fall short. The most obvious of Samsung's laptop emulating efforts is Dex Mode, which you can trigger with on-screen or keyboard shortcuts, but it also automatically takes over when you snap on the cover. I've had issues with Dex in the past, but in deeper testing, I've come to realize that many of the problems don't lie with Samsung. Android apps simply aren't designed to work with a keyboard and cursor. Although Dex does an admirable job of mimicking a desktop experience by adding a taskbar and allowing you to launch multiple windows at once, there are still a few important disconnects. Let's start with the things that Samsung could improve. When I launch Chrome in Dex Mode, it should enable the desktop version by default, instead of making me find and enable the setting. Also, I'd like complete keyboard shortcut support so that I can hit Ctrl-O and go back to my original zoom setting, or use Ctrl-Delete to delete the word ahead in a sentence. I'd also love for shift space to no longer trigger the language shortcut. It constantly trips me up whenever I type uppercase I and the system eats up the space that was supposed to come after. For example, I'll end up typing S pen instead of S pen, or I think instead of I think. There are a lot of little issues with Dex Mode that Samsung will need to work with developers to fix. YouTube, for example, will stop playing a video if I go to another app in Dex Mode, but it will launch what I was watching in a picture-in-picture viewer outside of Dex. Dex lets you run pretty much an unlimited number of windows at the same time, and while you can resize a majority of them, like Chrome, Telegram, and Google Play, you won't be able to do that with Instagram, for example. I understand why some apps need to retain a certain aspect ratio or size, but this inconsistency can be infuriating. That is a relatively small issue compared to my main complaint. Android simply wasn't built for a mouse and keyboard. This comes up the most when I'm trying to write a long review or chat with my friends. When I finish typing a message in Telegram, for example, hitting the Enter key doesn't send it through. It moves to a new line. I need to either click the send button on the screen or use Control-Enter, which is the exact opposite of how it would be on a PC. This isn't a Dex problem. The same happens when I use the app outside of Dex Mode. Android doesn't understand that when a keyboard is attached, I want the Enter key to send messages. I also can't use the cursor to select chunks of text. On a PC, I would be able to hover my mouse over some words, then click and drag to highlight whatever I want. On the Tab S7 Plus, the cursor doesn't change when it's hovering over text, and I have to first double-click to highlight a word before dragging the selectors. Worse, in apps like Slack, I can't even select words with the mouse at all. So if my editor sends me a headline suggestion, I can't copy and paste it into Google Docs. Oh, and even better, right-clicking only works sometimes. Often, though, you'll find you can't right-click on a conversation in a chat app to see more options. In some cases, right-clicking actually closes the app altogether. Outside of Dex Mode, you can also run up to 3 apps side by side with Samsung's multi-window feature, but the available configurations are limited. Also, some apps like Slack don't work well when confined to a small tile and only display useless information like the channels you have open. There are ways to work around some of these issues, including using the web versions of the apps in Chrome and then requesting the desktop versions of those sites, or using my finger to select the text. Individually, many of these issues aren't deal breakers, but taken together, they paint a damning picture of why it's so hard to use Android tablets as productivity machines. I applaud Samsung for trying to make the best of a difficult situation with Dex Mode, but Google needs to work harder with its partners to improve Android for these larger screens. iPadOS has evolved and now works better with cursors, and while Windows is not the most touch-friendly interface, it's great for productivity. One thing the Tab S7s are good for is taking notes. Samsung includes the S Pen, which has been upgraded to offer better latency and also acts as a remote control for things like taking selfies and advancing presentation slides. To help you make better use of the stylus, Samsung also includes 6 months free use of Clip Studio Paint, which comes pre-installed in the Tab S7s. Fans of the app, which was previously available only on Apple and Windows platforms, may find this helpful. It's better than Samsung's own Notes app for drawing, more nuanced works, although I wish the company would improve its palm rejection. I was already impressed by Samsung Notes' ability to parse my terrible handwriting to index my to-do lists and make them easier to search. With the latest software, Samsung also added the ability to import PDFs, making it much easier to sign and edit documents. I especially like the new audio bookmark feature that lets you record sound while you take notes and have your words timed to the clip for playback. I scrambled to write down lyrics to a song as I recorded it playing, and Samsung Notes accurately matched what I typed to the part of the song that I was transcribing. This new tool is a great companion to apps like Otter.ai or Google's Recorder, which transcribe your recordings but don't let you write down your own notes timed to when something was said. When it wasn't annoying me with keyboard or mouse issues, the Tab S7 Plus performed admirably. The Snapdragon 865 Plus processor and 6 gigs of RAM kept things running smoothly, even when I had 12 apps open in Dex Mode, including YouTube, Google Docs, Slack, Telegram, and Chrome. There was no delay when switching and launching apps, although sometimes it took a while for the app drawer to return search results. Getting in and out of Dex Mode also took a few seconds. I was surprised when I saw that the Tab S7 Plus didn't even hit 10 hours on our battery test, giving out at 9.5 hours. But then I remembered the screen was running at 120 Hz, which understandably uses more power. I reran the test at 60 Hz and the Tab S7 Plus got a respectable 11 hours and 58 minutes. The Tab S7 lasted much longer thanks to its LCD panel, getting 11.5 hours in 120 Hz and 12.5 in 60 Hz. In the real world, I usually got about a day of work out of the Tab S7 Plus before needing to plug it back in. The iPad Pro 2020 delivers similar runtime in real-world testing, while the Surface Pro 7 falls short here, barely making it to 8 hours on our test. As tablets, the Tab S7 and S7 Plus shine. They have beautiful displays and come with the useful S Pen and note-taking software, making them great machines for entertainment or for digital artists. But as a laptop stand-in, the S7s still need work. Samsung has improved the productivity capability of these devices by using high-end processors and offering some helpful software, but some keyboard shortcuts are still missing. More importantly, Android needs to get better at supporting desktop-style environments and apps. For $650 and $850 respectively, the Tab S7 and S7 Plus are excellent but expensive Android tablets. In a pinch, they're even good enough for banging out quick emails or edits. Just don't expect them to replace your laptop. For more reviews of iPads, Surfaces, and all of the other tablets in consumer electronics world, make sure you subscribe to Engadget. And as always, thank you for watching.